September of 1944, high above the island of Borneo, Major Richard Ira Bong skillfully guided his P-38 Lightning into a gentle descent. The twin Allison engines emitted a synchronized hum, producing 3,000 combined horsepower as he surveyed the expanse below through his reinforced cockpit window. Approaching from below, Japanese fighter planes were ascending with urgent intent, aiming for a squadron of American B-24 Liberators, entirely unaware that one of the most formidable aviators in American history was already maneuvering into a dominant position above them. Unbeknownst to the Japanese pilots, the unassuming young man hailing from Poplar, Wisconsin, currently sighting them through his gun sight, had already vanquished numerous enemy aircraft in aerial duels. By the conclusion of the conflict, he would achieve a remarkable tally of 40 confirmed aerial victories, establishing him as the highest-scoring fighter pilot in the annals of United States military aviation, a record that has remained unbroken for 80 years. This is the account of how a seemingly mild-mannered individual from northern Wisconsin ascended to become America's most lethal aerial combatant. It chronicles the transformation of a pilot who initially encountered difficulties during his training into a highly refined instrument of aerial warfare, and how the convergence of innate aptitude, rigorous preparation, and one of the most devastating fighter aircraft ever conceived coalesced to forge a legend within the Pacific theater. The journey toward achieving 40 victories commenced not with inherent aggression or a primal warrior's instinct, but rather with something far more conventional: disciplinary infractions and unauthorized aerobatic maneuvers executed in California. At Hamilton Field, California, Second Lieutenant Richard Bong, having recently completed his training at Luke Field in Arizona with a limited number of flight hours, was still acquiring proficiency in the P-38 Lightning when he made decisions that nearly curtailed his military career before it truly began. Official reports suggest he engaged in unauthorized low-altitude aerobatic displays over the San Francisco metropolitan area, a direct contravention of Army Air Force regulations. His commanding officer, General George Kenney, was decidedly unimpressed. The disciplinary action was swift and severe. However, Kenney, recognized as one of the most insightful commanders operating in the Pacific theater, perceived a distinctive quality in the young aviator. He observed exceptional aircraft control, a keen sense of spatial orientation, and reflexes that responded with remarkable speed. Rather than permanently grounding Bong, Kenney assigned him supplementary training and maintained him under close observation. What Kenney astutely recognized was that Bong possessed attributes that differentiated ordinary pilots from truly exceptional ones: superior depth perception, an innate ability to instantaneously calculate deflection angles, and an unwavering composure under duress. These were indeed qualities worthy of cultivation. By September of 1942, Bong was integrated into the 9th Fighter Squadron of the 49th Fighter Group, deploying to New Guinea as an integral component of the 5th Air Force. His combat experience at this juncture was relatively modest. In stark contrast, the Japanese forces had been engaged in continuous combat operations since 1937, boasting pilots who were seasoned veterans of campaigns in China, the Philippines, and numerous grueling aerial engagements across the Pacific. On paper, the prevailing conditions favored the enemy. In December of 1942, above Buna, New Guinea, Lieutenant Bong participated in his initial combat missions. P-38s belonging to the 9th Squadron ascended to intercept incoming Japanese bombers, which were being defended by Zero fighters. Lieutenant Bong, flying in a wing position, observed enemy formations emerging against the backdrop of the clouds. These comprised Mitsubishi bombers protected by the highly agile A-6M-0 aircraft. The P-38 Lightning represented a paradigm shift from anything the Japanese forces had previously encountered. Its distinctive twin-boom configuration, twin engines, tricycle landing gear, counter-rotating propellers that mitigated torque effects, and a formidable armament of 4 0.50 caliber machine guns and a 20-millimeter cannon mounted in the nose for devastatingly concentrated firepower made it a potent adversary. With a top speed exceeding 400 miles per hour and an operational ceiling reaching over 40,000 feet, it possessed the capability to outpace and outclimb the majority of Japanese aircraft. However, in terms of maneuverability, the Zero could execute tighter turns within the P-38 at lower speeds. Japanese pilots, masters of low-speed aerial combat, were adept at exploiting this advantage with ruthless efficiency. American pilots who attempted to engage in turning dogfights with Zeros often met a swift demise. Bong, however, eschewed such maneuvers. His initial aerial victories were secured through his astute application of the P-38's inherent strengths, its speed, altitude advantage, and overwhelming firepower. Its nose-mounted weaponry generated a focused cone of destruction. When enemy aircraft found themselves within this convergence zone, the consequences were frequently catastrophic. Bong's combat reports were consistently characterized by their understated nature, detailing altitude, engagement circumstances, and outcomes with minimal embellishment. What became progressively evident during his early missions was his profound understanding of how to effectively pilot the P-38. His guiding principle was simple: do not turn, do not attempt to dogfight, instead, leverage speed, altitude, and firepower. Position yourself with meticulous care and fire with absolute precision. Over the ensuing 3 years, he would refine this philosophy into a system of extraordinary efficacy. The P-38 Lightning, a product of Lockheed's renowned engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson, was a revolutionary aircraft that necessitated equally innovative combat tactics. Its twin Allison V-1710 engines delivered performance that astonished pilots accustomed to single-engine fighters. Nevertheless, the aircraft possessed certain peculiarities that proved perilous for inexperienced pilots. While the counter-rotating propellers effectively neutralized torque, they introduced unusual handling characteristics. The turbo superchargers were notoriously temperamental. Most critically, the P-38 was susceptible to compressibility issues during high-speed dives. Shock waves could form on the wings, leading to significant control difficulties. Dozens of American pilots perished while learning to contend with these limitations. Bong, however, mastered them. His tactical evolution proceeded at an accelerated pace. By early 1943, he had amassed several confirmed victories and a burgeoning reputation as an exceptional marksman. While other pilots expended large quantities of ammunition in prolonged bursts, Bong employed short, precise firing passes. Footage from his gun cameras consistently revealed a pattern: patient stalking, meticulous positioning, a brief attack run, and an immediate disengagement. Major Thomas Lynch, a fellow ace and squadron mate of Bong's, described Bong's approach as both patient and precise. Bong would meticulously establish his position, often executing extensive maneuvers to gain a tactical advantage. Then, close to an effective range, before delivering controlled bursts. His ammunition expenditure per kill was markedly more efficient than that of the average pilot. The cornerstone of Bong's success lay in deflection shooting, the ability to accurately estimate the future position of a moving target at the precise moment his bullets would arrive, rather than aiming at its current location. Most pilots struggled with these complex calculations. Bong's capacity to make these adjustments instinctively, manipulating the aircraft's controls with smooth and decisive movements, set him apart. In July of 1943, above Leh, New Guinea, Bong's tally of victories continued to climb. A formation of Japanese bombers, escorted by Zero fighters, attempted to strike Allied positions. American fighters scrambled to intercept. This engagement starkly illustrated Bong's developing tactical sophistication. Instead of diving immediately, he positioned his flight group at a superior altitude. He deliberately waited for openings in the enemy's defensive screen, moments when the bombers were vulnerable. Then he struck, descending from altitude at high speed. Bong's P-38 would attack before the defending fighters could effectively react. He engaged the bombers with concentrated bursts of firepower. The combined output of 4 machine guns and 1 cannon could rapidly dismantle aircraft when aimed with accuracy. Bong's strategy emphasized converting altitude into speed, executing high-velocity attack runs, and then climbing back to altitude to prepare for subsequent engagements. Japanese fighters, possessing superior maneuverability at lower speeds, often struggled to intercept the faster P-38s employing these tactics. Achieving multiple kills within a single mission became increasingly common. His ammunition expenditure per kill remained impressively low when contrasted with the average pilot's performance. American formations utilizing these tactics frequently achieved favorable outcomes with minimal casualties. Japanese forces, meticulously analyzing combat reports from their pilots, began to discern patterns in American fighter tactics. These included attacks originating from high altitudes, swift engagements and disengagements, and exceptionally precise gunfire. Reports identified specific aircraft by their markings, including Bong's P-38, which bore the name Marge painted on its side in honor of his girlfriend back in Wisconsin. By November of 1943, Bong had accumulated 21 confirmed victories, solidifying his status as one of America's leading aces. General Kenney personally bestowed upon Bong the Distinguished Service Cross and dispatched him back to the United States for a war bond tour. The American public warmly embraced the young pilot who had achieved such remarkable success against Japanese forces. However, Bong expressed a strong desire to return to combat operations. By March of 1944, he was back in New Guinea, piloting an upgraded P-38J model, equipped with improved engines, enhanced cockpit heating, and hydraulically boosted ailerons that significantly improved its high-speed maneuverability. The Japanese Air Forces, struggling to compensate for losses incurred over years of attritional warfare, were now deploying numerous pilots with limited training. In contrast, American pilots like Bong possessed extensive flight experience and received thorough gunnery instruction. The gap in combat experience had become substantial. In April of 1944, over Hollandia, New Guinea, Bong was leading flights on bomber escort missions. Intelligence reports indicated a significant number of Japanese fighters attempting to intercept American strike packages. Bong's tactical approaches continued to evolve. He would position his formations advantageously, maintain altitude superiority whenever feasible, and time his attacks to exploit enemy vulnerabilities. Engagements frequently resulted in favorable kill ratios. Bong personally continued to contribute to his victory total while simultaneously directing effective defensive operations for bomber formations. His methodology emphasized several fundamental principles: maintain an energy advantage through altitude, utilize speed for both engagement and disengagement, leverage the P-38's concentrated firepower, and rigorously avoid turning engagements that negated American advantages. Head-on attacks demanded considerable courage and precise timing, as engagement windows were exceedingly brief. Most pilots would break off their attacks early. Bong's steadfast willingness to maintain his attack runs afforded him consistent advantages. When Japanese fighters attempted evasive maneuvers by diving, Bong would pursue his P-38, capable of maintaining high speeds in dives that many enemy aircraft could not safely replicate. His ammunition efficiency remained exceptionally high. While specific round counts may vary in official records, his confirmed kills per sortie ratio and ammunition usage patterns were demonstrably superior to the average pilot's performance. By June of 1944, Bong's victory total reached 28, surpassing Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record of 26 and establishing him as America's highest-scoring ace. General Kenney initially prohibited Bong from participating in routine combat missions, deeming him too valuable to risk. Bong, however, expressed his frustration and advocated for a return to operational flying. Kenney eventually relented, but with specific restrictions. Bong was permitted to fly, but primarily in the capacity of flight leader on high-priority missions, with experienced pilots providing essential cover. The general's intention was clearly to safeguard his most successful ace. These restrictions, however, did not significantly impede Bong's rate of victories. Flying priority missions often meant confronting highly capable enemy pilots and emerging victorious. In October of 1944, above Balikpapan, Borneo, a large-scale Japanese counterattack was launched against American bombers targeting oil refineries. Bong, leading P-38s, ascended to intercept. Bong's tactical approach prioritized positioning his formations with the sun at their advantage and maintaining altitude superiority. Subsequently, he timed his attacks to coincide with moments when enemy fighters were preoccupied with engaging the bomber formations. Initial assaults were frequently highly effective, resulting in the rapid destruction of multiple enemy aircraft. However, the Japanese forces increasingly employed coordinated defensive responses. During one particular engagement, Bong's aircraft sustained significant combat damage, including hits to an engine. Most pilots would have immediately disengaged. Bong, however, feathered the damaged engine, activated the fire suppression system, and continued to engage the enemy on single-engine power. The P-38, designed with inherent redundancy, possessed the capability to fly and fight effectively on a single engine. Despite a significant degradation in performance, Bong persisted with the engagement and secured additional kills before returning to base with compromised systems. His damaged aircraft bore numerous bullet impacts. Ground crews assessed the extensive damage, and contrary to initial predictions, the aircraft was deemed combat ineffective. Nevertheless, repairs were completed, and Bong successfully flew the repaired fighter again. By December of 1944, Bong had achieved 40 confirmed victories. General Kenney, acting under direct orders from General Douglas MacArthur, permanently grounded America's top ace. Bong was deemed too valuable as a national symbol and training asset to be exposed to further combat. Bong's final combat mission took place on December 17, 1944, a routine patrol that encountered no enemy contact. He returned to the United States as America's highest-scoring fighter pilot, a recipient of the Medal of Honor, and a national hero. However, the statistics present only a partial narrative. The true measure of Bong's influence extended beyond the 40 aircraft he personally destroyed. It encompassed the bomber crews he protected, the ground troops who benefited from the air support provided on missions he flew, and the tactical innovations he pioneered, which subsequently became standard doctrine for American fighter pilots throughout the Pacific theater. His gunnery techniques were integrated into official training manuals. His tactical approaches, utilizing altitude advantage, attacking from favorable positions, exploiting the P-38's strengths while mitigating its weaknesses, became foundational elements of fighter doctrine. New pilots diligently studied his gun camera footage and combat reports. Japanese pilots who survived the war and were subsequently interviewed described encounters with exceptionally skilled American aviators who effectively employed altitude, speed, and concentrated firepower. They acknowledged facing opponents whose precision and tactical discipline proved exceedingly difficult to counter. Letters exchanged with his fiancée, Marge Vattendahl, reveal a thoughtful young man who fully comprehended the gravity of his role. In his correspondence, Bong reflected that his primary focus was on executing his duties with maximum effectiveness, ensuring the protection of bomber formations and supporting ground operations. The P-38 Lightning itself deserves significant recognition as one of history's most successful fighter aircraft designs. Over 10,000 units were produced during the war, serving in every theater of operations. In the Pacific, piloted by individuals who understood how to capitalize on its unique characteristics, the Lightning proved exceptionally effective. Its twin-engine configuration offered critical redundancy, enhancing survivability. The tricycle landing gear improved ground handling. Its nose-mounted weapons eliminated the convergence issues that plagued wing-mounted guns. The turbo superchargers provided high-altitude performance that many Japanese fighters could not match. The concentrated firepower, a combination of 4 0.50 caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon, created impressive destructive capability at effective ranges. When aimed with precision, this weaponry could rapidly dismantle enemy aircraft. Bong, with his exceptional marksmanship and skill in deflection shooting, achieved remarkably short engagement times. Technical analyses of his gun camera footage conducted by Army Air Force experts indicated that Bong's hit percentage was extraordinarily high when compared to the average fighter pilot. While exact percentages may vary across different assessments, his accuracy was consistently noted as exceptional, far surpassing typical pilot performance. On August 6, 1945, at Lockheed Air Terminal in Burbank, California, Major Richard Bong, recently married to Marge and assigned as a test pilot for Lockheed, was conducting acceptance flights on new P-80 Shooting Star jet fighters, America's pioneering operational jet aircraft. The P-80 represented the vanguard of aviation's future. Its jet engine generated 4,000 pounds of thrust, enabling speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour, representing cutting-edge technology that rendered piston-engine fighters obsolete. Bong was transitioning from the P-38s to these new jets, adapting to an entirely new flight regime. That afternoon, during a test flight, Bong's P-80 experienced a catastrophic fuel pump failure shortly after takeoff. The engine failed at a low altitude, providing insufficient time or altitude for recovery. Bong attempted engine restart procedures without success. He tried to reach the runway but was unable to do so. In the final moments, he attempted to eject, but the altitude was insufficient. The P-80 crashed. Major Richard Ira Bong, America's ace of aces, died instantly. He was 24 years old. On the very same day, an American B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. The news of Bong's death received minimal coverage, overshadowed by headlines announcing the dawn of the atomic age. 80 years later, Richard Bong's record of 40 confirmed victories remains unassailable and is likely to remain so permanently. Modern air combat, dominated by beyond visual range missiles and radar-guided weaponry, will never again replicate the close-quarters dogfighting that defined World War II aerial combat. The young pilot who faced disciplinary challenges early in his career ascended to legendary status by mastering fundamental principles: patience, precision, and effective deflection shooting. He did not rely on recklessness or brute force. Instead, he depended on calculated positioning and flawless execution. Every engagement was the result of careful planning. Every kill was achieved through proper positioning and accurate fire. At the Richard the Fern Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior, Wisconsin, visitors can view his Medal of Honor, his flight logs detailing 200 combat missions, and exhibits honoring his service. A restored P-38 bearing the Marge nose art serves as a representation of his wartime aircraft. General George Kenney, who recognized Bong's potential and actively supported his development, later wrote that Bong was the most effective fighter pilot he had ever observed. Kenney emphasized that Bong's approach prioritized precision and technique over aggression, making his exceptional effectiveness appear effortless through the consistent application of sound tactical principles. The battlefields where Bong secured his 40 victories are now tranquil havens. The wreckage of Japanese fighters has long since succumbed to the tropical earth. However, the record persists. The young man from Wisconsin who became America's deadliest fighter pilot. The ace of aces who transformed precision and discipline into remarkably effective combat performance. The pilot who demonstrated that in aerial combat, superior technique and consistent execution yield exceptional results. 40 confirmed victories, survival through 200 combat missions, and complete success in air-to-air engagements. These numbers tell the story. The record speaks for itself, and nearly 8 decades later, no American pilot has surpassed the accomplishments of Richard Ira Bong during combat operations in the Pacific. His exceptional precision in aerial warfare, achieved through meticulous positioning and accurate fire from the most successful American fighter aircraft in history, remains a testament to his unparalleled skill.